So today I'm going to show you how to graph these three functions using the rise over the run method. I've put some timestamps below if you only want to see how I sketch one of these. So let's begin. So I'm going to sketch this first function, y is equal to 6x minus 7. So using the general form y is equal to mx plus c, you can see m is equal to 6, m greater than 0. So we know that we'll have a function with a positive gradient. Then you can see c is equal to minus 7. So c is less than 0. So you know that this linear function will cut the y-axis where y is negative, so at the bottom. So for this method, we need 1 point and we need m. So the easiest method, which will always be true, or which will always lie in the linear function, is 0c. So you can choose maybe like x equal to 1 and get a y value and use that point. It doesn't matter, but the easiest point is always 0c. So in this case, it will be 0 minus 7. So now we're going to need m. So m is known as the gradient. So m is equal to the change in y over the change in x. So that is equal to y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So it can also be y1 minus y2 divided by x1 minus x2. So at the end of the video I'll explain this part, but for now I'm just going to show you how to draw it, and then I'll show you another method how to get m. But you can see here above, you can just look it off, you can see m is equal to 6. But here we need the change in y and the change in x. So with the m, you can just write it as 6 divided by 1, because 6 divided by 1 is equal to 6. So here, the change in y is equal to 6, and the change in x is equal to 1. So now what we'll do is we'll take the first point, 0 minus 1. Then we'll say, okay, well the change in x is 1, so 0 plus 1 is 1, and then the change in y is 6. So minus 7 plus 6 is minus 1. Then for our next point, we take our previous point, 1 minus 1, and we say the change in x is 1. So 1 plus 1 is 2. And then the change in y is 6. So minus 1 plus 6 is 5. So there we have our 3 points. 0 minus 7, 1 minus 1, and 2, 5. So here in GeoGebra, you can see the function is 6x minus 7. And here we have our y-intercept, so our first point, 0 minus 7. So here you can see is our point 0 minus 7. So let me just go here and explain it to you. So whenever the change in y is positive, you move up. So that's when the change in y is positive. Then, when the change in y is negative, then you move downwards. So then the change in y is negative. Then, when the change in x is positive, you move to the right. So that's when the change in x is positive. And you move to the left if the change in x is negative. So here above, the change in y is 6 and the change in y is positive. So we'll move up and to the right. So in this graph here, you see we begin at the point 0 minus 7. Now because the change in y is positive and it's equal to 6, we move 6 points up to minus 1. And because the change in x is positive and it's equal to 1, we move 1 to the right. And there we get our point B, which is 1 minus 1. So to get C, we move up 6 points and we move to the right 6 points. Then you just connect the 3 dots with your ruler, and just to show you, the graph goes on forever. So that's why you just connect the 3 dots and maybe make it a little bit longer, and you just put some arrows on to show that the graph goes on in each direction. So now to go to the second graph, so you can see here we're going to graph the function minus 3x plus 13. So m is equal to minus 3, so m is less than 0. So we know that it will have a negative gradient. Sorry, this is a positive gradient. So please don't make this mistake, it's very easy to. So this is a negative gradient. So we know that if m is less than 0, the function will go from the top left to the bottom right. So that's when m is less than 0. And we know that if m is greater than 0, then it will go from the bottom left to the top right. So remember a check mark and a negative here. So there you get the negative, and here you get the positive. So because m is less than 0, we know that the function will look something like this. So m just gives you how steep it is, because you can see here, this is less steep than this one here. So here, so if m is greater than 0, I think I'll just make a separate video explaining this, but here you can see if m is greater than 0, then with this function, with this one here, the m will be less than when this one is here, because you can see it's much more steep. So the steeper the function, the larger m would be. So just, if you're not subscribed yet, please do so, and I'll make a follow-up video explaining this in more detail. So just getting back to graphing this function, so you can see here that m is equal to minus 3. So just to get the change over y and the change over x, I'll write m is equal to minus 3 divided by 1. So you can see here the change in y is equal to minus 3, and the change in x is equal to 1. So to get our first point, the easiest one is just 0c. So we'll just write that. So you can see here above c is equal to 13. So our first point is 0, 13. So now to get our second point, our change in x is equal to 1. So 0 plus 1 is 1. Then our change in y is equal to minus 3. So 13 minus 3 is 10. Then to get our final point, we use our previous point. So the change in x is equal to 1. So 1 plus 1 is 2. Then our change in y is minus 3. So 10 minus 3 is 7. So here we have our 3 points, 0, 13, 1, 10, and 2, 7. So usually when you draw a straight line, you need 3 points. So with the first method and this last method, you need 3 points to draw the graph. The only time that you don't need 3 points, but when you only need 2, is when you use the second method. So then you only get the y-intercept, so where the linear function cuts the y-axis, and the x-intercept, where when the linear function cuts the x-axis. So then you only need 2 points, like maybe here and here. So then your function would be here, or maybe here and there, and then your function would be there. So then you only need 2 points. But in the first method and in this method, you need 3 points. So then here you have you can go on, you can have 4 points or 5 points. So here you can maybe go and let's say do another point. So you take, okay, well, the change in x is 1, so 2 plus 1 is 3. And then you can have the change in y is minus 3, so 7 minus 3 is 4. So I'll put in that point. So you can see here in the second one, our function is y is equal to minus 3 x plus 13, and I'll have our first point 0, 13, which is here. Now because the change in y is negative, we go down 3 points, and the change in x is positive 1, so we go to the right 1 point to b, which is 1, 10. Then to get our final point, because the change in y is negative and it's equal to minus 3, we go down 3 points and we go to the right 1 point, because the change in x is positive and is equal to 1. So there our c is 2, 7. So now I'll just put in our final point and show you. So our final point is 3, 4. So if I just put in here, I put in 3, 4, you can see down here is our point 3, 4. So the change in y is negative. So we go down 1, 2, 3 points, so that is minus 3. And because the change in y is 1 and is positive, we go right 1. And there our point is. So you can actually like just keep on going if you really want to. But in a test or exam, your time is limited, so I wouldn't. So you can go, let's say, down 1, 2, 3, and there left. So you know that's also another point, 4, 1. So 4, 1, you can see here, the change in y, or the change in x is 1. So you say 3 plus 1, so that's 4. And then the change in y is minus 3, so 4 minus 3 is 1. So there you can see is our point 4, 1. So you can just keep on doing that, but you only need 3 points. So now to draw the final graph. So the final graph is y is equal to 1 divided by 12x plus 3. So you can see here m is equal to 1/12, so 1 divided by 12. So m is greater than 0, so you know it will look something like this. And you can see c is equal to 3, and c is greater than 0, so we know that the linear function will cut the y-axis where where y is positive, so somewhere up top, so somewhere here. So here y is positive. So for this method we need 1 point. So the easiest point is 0, c. So we know that that point is 0, 3. So we have our first point 0, 3. So m is equal to 1 divided by 12. So So you can see here easily the change in y is equal to 1 and the change in x is equal to 12. So now to get our second point, the change in x is 12, so 0 plus 12 is 12, and the change in y is 1, so 3 plus 1 is 4. So we have our second point, 12, 4. So now to get our last point, you can see the change in x is 12, so 12 plus 12 is 24, and the change in y is 1, so 4 plus 1 is 5. So there we have our 3 points, 0, 3, 12, 4, and 24, 5. So to show you it in GeoGebra, so here you can see the function in GeoGebra, y is equal to 1 divided by 12x plus 3. So our first point that we chose, you can take any point that you want to, so you can plug in 12 into x and get y is equal to 4, and then the point would be 12, 4, and then you can use that point and follow this method, but this is the easiest point because 0c will always be on the linear function. So we take 0c, which is 0, 3. So the function, so the change in y is 1 and the change in x is 12. So the change in y is 1, positive. So from this point here we go up 1 because it's positive, and we go to the right 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And you can see the point there is B, which is 12, 4. Then for our next point, the change in y is 1, which is positive. So we go up 1 and we go to the right 12 because the change in x is 12, which is positive. So we go to the right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And there you can see C is 24, 5. So you can even take it further. We can go 1 up and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And that point there is 36. Let me just see. Looks like 36, 6. So you can see also here, let me just do the extra point. So 24 plus 12 is 36, and then 5 plus 1 is 6. So there you see is our another point that we can add, but you only need 3 if you want to draw the linear function. So thank you guys for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video and learned something. I think I'll do another video using the rise over the run method because there's lots of variations that can happen with this method. And if you're not subscribed, please do so that you can see my next videos. And thank you guys for watching. So in this video I'm not going to show you how to get m using 2 points. I'll do that not in the next video, but in the video after that. I'll show you exactly how to get m if you only have 2 points. Then I'll show you to you there. Thank you guys for watching and sticking to the end. I hope you have an awesome day.